Hi guys, my name's Seb Tudor. I'm the man on the Silver Mountain, and welcome back. Today, something that came up to me over the weekend um, that you can see everywhere is the elements of tribalism in our culture, still in our society generally, um, with the split down the middle of Labour in the UK, with the continuous fighting between conservative and liberal political parties all over the world. The fact that many of them have been reduced to being completely ineffective or particularly bad at their jobs just because they can't compromise for the greater good or organize themselves in such a way that they can actually achieve results together. Um, I wanted to just have a discussion on how, firstly, tribalism rears its ugly head, why at one point it was a good thing, and not necessarily what we can do about it because it's somewhat intrinsic to our nature, but how it's best handled, maybe, at least from my experience. So, firstly, what do I mean when I'm saying tribalism? I'm talking about the whole in-group, out-group thing. People gathering around needs, ideas, pastimes, and so on and so forth, whereby they associate very closely with one another and potentially start excluding people based on those ideologies, those hobbies, those activities, traits, whatever. Um, and there are five, give or take, five main components, main values that you see repeated in these places, which have been confirmed by various um, research in various places. Um, but most of it stems back to the whole evolution of man, evolutionary psychology, and so on. And so going through these main values, we can kind of see the patterns in people and in these groups. So the first, just going through them in alphabetically as best I can off the list that I've got here. You've got authority at the top, and obviously authority originally came from social hierarchies uh, within family groups and things like that, and having and this is something that we can still see in chimpanzees, where you've got alphas, and you can see it in other creatures that would be considered maybe less intelligent in regards to um, dogs, cats, things like that. And so the idea of authority is obviously quite core. It allows for organisation. It allows for decisiveness and directiveness in regards to dealing with things. And obviously, if you're part of a caveman tribe, or arguably even a tribe today in some of the more isolated parts of the world where very small, close-knit tribal communities still exist, for example, in the Amazon rainforest, um, then, or in the Amazon basin, the idea of authority is a beneficial one, because if you've got one or a small collection of people calling the shots, and everyone is then following on from those, it allows for a very direct way to deal with potential problems, issues, and other such things. And you can see this in business. If you have too many managers on a shift, for example, then there's a good chance that they'll start butting heads, trying to override one another. The staff working under their instruction will get confused, and it's the too many cooks spoil the broth thing. It just doesn't work out as well as having a much smaller collective or an individual who is capable of calling the shots and being very decisive and directive based on either a lot of evidence or no evidence or whatever. It's it's not necessarily, I'm not necessarily advocating for dictatorships, but what I am saying is that having a minority that are specifically there to pull in as much or as little information as is deemed fit to then make a decision and take action on it, that's not necessarily a bad thing from a survival point of view. But then moving forward to today, you see this in a lot of places, both on the far right and the far left, or in religions, whereby they cling to authority, and authority is a thing that they try and enforce on people. For example, in religions, the negative actions and things said in regards to the homosexual community, or in regards to either the extreme left or the extreme right, where you have people saying you can do this, you can't do this. Abortion rights on the right hand side of the spectrum in America in particular, and on the left you've got people trying to ban words from the dictionary because they're supposedly offensive. And both of those, they're both constrictions on people. They're groups attempting to assert authority. And obviously, in the days when we had to rely on levels of authority because hunting mammoths with 5 guys is a difficult thing to do, it was important. But now you've got so many people who can just go off and do whatever they want, and to one degree or another, if you set your mind to something, if you set your mind to living on the other side of the planet, then you can do that. If you set your mind to living in a society that you would much prefer to live within, again, you can do that. It may be some movements may be harder than others, but it allows you to do that. And so authority over individuals doesn't really make that much of a difference, considering that even large bodies that actually command that authority, like governments of countries, or groups like Interpol or anything like that, they have a limitation because you don't have agreements on a lot of things over certain borders, and so authority at the highest point doesn't necessarily make that much of a difference to the individual, and so it also may not as it trickles down. And that's why you have so many divisions, because because each person conscribes to one side of an argument, or they conscribe to an ideology, and therefore their authority is the one that needs to be respected. And because they cannot see eye to eye, they refuse to back down from that core value to their tribe. Then it ends up with people attempting to attack each other, defame each other, and so on and so forth. But moving on, empathy. The next one that comes up, you would have thought empathy would be a good thing. And again, in a tribal environment where you're empathizing with the other people within the tribe, you're seeing that one, in a tribal setting, you're seeing one hunter is not having a great day, and so you go and attempt to fix the problem or help that person. If you see a child that is harmed, then you want to go and find out what is wrong and help that individual. As a survival mechanic, to ensure the well-being of the people around you, empathy is an excellent thing to have. And it's especially within a tribe, something that should be promoted, because if you're at war with another tribe over resources in regards to food or water or wood, materials for tools, then it comes up as a thing whereby you definitely want to empathize with your people so that you take care of your own tribe and your own tribe is strong. And this is where another part of the problem is, because you're only empathizing with your own tribe. And so when you move into the modern world, where empathy to an extent is at an all-time low, very few people are willing to have the discussion. In certain industries, empathy is literally drummed out of you, pardon me, and So it becomes this case of when you've got the people on the left and the people on the right, for example, attaching themselves to their ideologies so fervently, and as a result they are um, only empathizing with people within their own spaces, then it's no wonder that you have, if you watch any session of Parliament, you will have people taking jabs at each other and potentially throwing insults at one another, when they're both just people, they're both fallible. There's neither of them have all the answers, but they keep insisting that they do. And on top of that, it's a case of, well, if you're both insisting that you have all of the answers or that you're going to do perfectly well, then surely you're more similar than not. However, there is obviously a disconnect here. But that appreciation of the other, of opening yourself to understand someone on the other side, is not something that they are willing to do. I mean, if I had the option, I'd take a large amount of our parliament in this country, sit them down and get them to do like team building exercises between the two parties, because that's, or between the 3, 5, however many parties actually were willing to step up for it. I can pretty much guarantee that UKIP probably wouldn't. But what it comes down to is, there's no point in continually arguing over something when you're not even willing to take a step back or sit down and discuss and see things from another person's point of view. And this is a problem with today. When lots more people are purely communicating in text and they aren't communicating face to face or voice to voice even, so you can't pick up the inflections or the ways that people are saying things, and so misunderstandings become far more common. It is hard to pick tone up and to empathize with someone who is talking to you as if you were reading what they're saying out of a textbook. And so that empathy at the moment has been degraded, and that's why you have arguments over things like Black Lives Matter, for example, where you've got the two groups completely, whereby you've got the Black Lives Matter protesters and activists and rioters against the police force, who are terrified in some instances and prejudiced in others, but they're not willing to take a step back, and they're often not willing to empathize or calm down in the grandest scheme. And that's why you see, for example, end of last week, the riots that happened in Charlotte. And I can't help but feel that a lot of the issues that stem from the lack of empathy that is currently present in the world is they're the ones that stop conversation. They're the ones that prevent the other values that I'm going to be speaking about here from being addressed. The lack of empathy, the lack of openness is the thing that brings everything else to a halt, because empathy, judging from what I see in my day-to-day, empathy is one of those things that is intrinsic to a lot of people. It's something that most people can experience because they care about others. They can see when someone else is upset. Not everybody, obviously, but most people have that ability to just perceive someone else's upset. And so if that being one of the most core things to people, it's no surprise that when you're not willing to allow yourself to see where someone else is coming from, that stops and shuts down all other conversation. But anyway, I've said enough on that. So moving on, fairness. Fairness, obviously, within your group, you want everyone to have a fair share. You want everyone to have a fair opportunity. You want everyone to have the resources that they require to move forward. And again, this is obvious on the political side of things, because you've got people who are looking to make sure that everyone that they care about is provided for through their votes, or through the things that they discuss, the issues that they fight for, and so on. The issue here is, though, that when you've got certain people within a group, fairness might mean something completely different. It can be a subjective word. It does not to some people it does not always mean an equal share. Because even what is an equal share, for example, in certain political issues, whereby you've got maybe for example, take Brexit, where you've got the older generation fighting for the most part, fighting for their the correction of a mistake that they felt was made, and as a result looking to provide a better future for their children, and therefore the fair share of the result would be that their kids have a good future across the board. Whilst on the other side of things, the fairness is that it's not fair that the younger generation, who are going to have to live with whatever resolution occurs, they're going to have to live with it for the rest of their lives, and it may very well disadvantage or cause issues for some of those individuals to one degree or another. I already know some people who have lost their jobs as a result of Brexit already, and that's without anything being signed. But they're then seeing it as unfair because they've got the lion's share of issues that come out of Brexit, and the people that were most in favour of it aren't going to be around long enough to see what occurs. And so when you got the differences in fairness, where you've got one group going, oh well, here is everything that we didn't feel we had that you should have, so therefore it's fair. We did our time, and now here's the rewards being reaped from it, and we're providing them. And the other side is focusing on a almost entirely different topic, to go, we are upset about this because it's unfair. You have taken away something that we wanted. And again, from a tribal point of view, from a cavemen in mud huts kind of thing, at the very most, then that's, fairness is a great thing. You want to make sure that everyone has what they need to survive, and that everyone who pulls their weight gets the reward for it. It promotes good work ethic, and it promotes a kind of standard of work to reward that then has the tribe function better. That's a good thing. But then today in the real world, where you've got so many different opinions, so many different options, so many different people adding to what is fair, what is not fair, it breaks down. And when you've got such big disparities in our culture anyway, or at least in the Western world, especially in the UK, between people who are rich and who are poor, for example, where you've got people in the top 2% of earners in the UK still not having the money necessarily to put their children through the schools that they would want to, or to provide for them in such a way that they'd be happy, or possibly even struggling to keep their house, depending on the area they're living in. And it's like, as much as that seems extreme, that's because the top 2% of the lowest part of the top 2% in the UK is, in terms of earning, is still not huge in terms of the money that they bring in. As I spoke about in a previous video, modal earnings are substantially lower than what people suggest they are on average, and as a result you can fairly easily take that the within the top 2%, those groups are much smaller, but the amount is still not very big that they're bringing in per year. But yeah, fairness is a difficult one to address though, because when it is simply about resources or simply about the opportunities available to individuals, that's easy to address because um, most people can count. So if you've got a set number of resources, then counting out how much each people can have and dividing it evenly amongst a group is not a hard thing to do. In regards to opportunity, in the world at the moment, there is, or at least in the Western world, sorry, at the moment, most of the countries throughout Europe, America, the UK, and so on, have equal opportunity laws. They ensure that people can do basically whatever they want within reason. And so, you know, the fairness issue then becomes far more nebulous because there is not, no one is being directly held back from something, no one is being directly deprived in certain ways. I mean, don't get me wrong, some people are, but I mean, um, the the zeitgeist, as it were, everyone in the UK, for example, has healthcare. Yes, at the moment our healthcare is our healthcare system is somewhat failing and is no longer counted as a true national health service by the World Health Organization. But that's beside the point for now. Um, Everyone is granted a certain amount, and whether or not it's a meager amount or not, they're all granted it. And so the fairness in society then moves on to things like whether or not it's fair to have people take on various roles, or whether or not people have to dream up these new ideas of things like cultural appropriation and things like that, where it's not fair that X gets to do things but Y doesn't, and so on and so forth. And it's again, it just it's a fuel. If empathy is a block, and authority is the stick that they attempt to drive people with, then fairness is the fuel to fire it. If you are being treated unfairly, then you know you become disenfranchised. Oh, life sucks. Then you move on to trying to separate yourself from that other group and go, oh no, it's me specifically, I this sucks for me. And then as soon as someone comes along to you with a potential solution, then you're going to jump at it, and you oh well, this is great, oh well, I'm now associating with this group, we're great. And then, you know, potentially at the end of things, oh well, life is great because of this. And so you've just moved through the 5 stages of culture. And so moving on to the next one, which is loyalty, and you see this everywhere, where you've got, for example, in the Labour Party with the split recently, you've got people who were picking their loyalties on either side, and you've got the seemingly much more status quo politicians, the ones that most people are referring to as kind of either the Blairite posse or a collective of core Labour voters, politicians, core Labour politicians. They're all sticking together. They're all saying they'll resign. They're all attempting to hold themselves together, and it doesn't really work. Because nowadays everyone is replaceable. Until we have some kind of population crisis, everybody in every position is entirely replaceable. So it's why are you being loyal to one another when there are bigger things at stake? And the simple thing is because they've attached themselves to each other. The groups that they are part of, whether you know the other person or not, as long as they identify within your group, within your tribe, then you will attach yourself to them. And again, this was a great thing when you were a caveman rumbling around in the middle of nowhere and another caveman turned up. If they were within your group, then you'd find out why they were wandering alone. You'd take care of them, you'd protect them from things, you'd you know, inquire. If they weren't, you'd probably go after them with a club. And it's like, as a result though, by destroying that potential consumer, your group of consumers are going to do much better. Great. But the thing is, in a modern kind of more modern society, more modern group, more modern tribe, you're thinking, yeah, it's all of these people that come across the country to protest about something that happened to a very small number of individuals, when they've never been affected by the problem, they've never really seen the issue, they've never really had cause to discuss it, but they identify with the person that it happened to for some reason, and as a result they jump on a bandwagon, and it, wherever in a society where everyone is replaceable, what's the point? Because quite frankly there isn't one. MPs trying to stick together around their form of an ideology, their form of a liberal ideology, because they feel that they're doing the right thing, or they feel that they're doing well, or whatever else. It's all well and good, but it's not really doing anyone any favours, especially not them. And so when you look at it, it's kind of ridiculous. Why even? I don't get it. There's no point. Every single one of you that resigns is just going to be replaced by someone else. Potentially someone that's better qualified, potentially someone that's worse. And so it's not going to make the slightest bit of difference. It reminds me of all the times when I was managing, and I would have these groups on my staff who were pissed off with only one member of the management team or something, or one new thing that happened. They'd be like, "Oh, I'm going to resign. I'm going to resign. I'm pissed off with this. I'm going to resign." Be like, "Okay. All you're doing is losing your paycheck. You're not helping yourself. You're not helping anyone. You're not protesting the issue. You're not taking part in anything. You're just removing yourself." And that's not going to help resolve what you're upset about. It's not going to help the people that you're working with. But if your little group wants to go and resign because you're all so upset about this one thing, fine. The only person that you're disadvantaging is yourself, because you're highlighting yourself as being expendable. You're highlighting yourself as a target, because the rest of the people who are still there working together are still going to try and be loyal to one another to help them get through the day. So your small loyalty, and you're acting out upon that loyalty based around your ideology, is not going to help. It's not going to work. There's nothing that's going to happen. But then the last one, which is purity, and yes, you can discuss this in terms of racial purity or whatever else, but also if you're thinking about it in terms of the purity of like actual physical purity, people being free of disease and so on. So if you're going to take purity as a core value in regards to your little caveman tribe, if you shun the outsiders, then you're maintaining your purity, not only because you know everyone in your tribe, you've got no concerns about those people, but that person might be bad, think Trump with his wall, but also you don't know what they're bringing with them. They could actually bring poisons, sickness, evil, and it's a good survival mechanism. When you've got a tribe of 50 people and one person coming in could wipe out half the tribe because they've walked from down the valley and there's a disease down there or a poison down there or something else that they're bringing with them that is just going to kill all of you, then that's, you don't want to let that person in. And I'm not saying that in those times they would necessarily be aware of the disease, but if someone was like bleeding from the mouth and eyes, and as they came walking in, then they'd obviously want to get that person out because there's something wrong with them and it's obvious. And so, but then moving forward to today again, I mentioned Trump with his wall. He's not saying that everyone has to leave, he's just saying that the illegals have to leave. Okay, fine, but then how are you going to make that happen? How, there's no specifics involved. But he's playing on the idea of purity. If you are a flag-waving, gun-loving, proud American, then you can stay. But everyone else that could be a threat to one extent or another because of same give or take reasons updated from caveman times updated to the modern day, you know, these are all things that stick with us, and so that's one of the reasons why he's picking up a lot of supporters. And it's both troubling to someone who sits back and tries to take in as much of the big picture as possible, and going, well, the purity aspect here doesn't really make that much of a difference considering your entire country is built on immigration, and you've got you know, you've got one of the most advanced and powerful countries on the planet there. Surely there's a way for you to deal with the potential issues, because your people coming into your country are still a grand minority and you're a grand majority, so surely you've got the resources to achieve things, to allow for better systems to be in place, to allow for a more reasonable response than build a wall. Because, you know, Hadrian did that in this country to try and stop the Scottish from coming in. To be fair, I don't think the Scottish really wanted to come down, but let's face it, it still ended up with the Romans leaving. The wall didn't do jack shit. It was just a wall. As you, I mean, even if you look at the wall that separated Berlin, cut it down the middle, the wall still came down. They only go up for a certain period of time. I mean, you know, it would need to be of somewhat more significance than just a wall to keep people out. I feel it would have to be something truly impressive, and it would have to have more meaning to it, which, you know, we're not. The last time a wall really worked to try and keep people out, I believe, was essentially the Great Wall of China. I don't see Trump's wall in today's slowly shrinking and progressing world doing that much. And so the ideas of purity, again going back to the point, are being instilled in people, that are having people flock to some of his ideas. It's not doing you any favors. But then let's look at another example. Again, the purity in the so-called regressive left, whereby they try to shut out groups that are not as progressive or as oppressed or as quick to complain. And as a result, one of the first groups that usually gets shouted down are men, and especially if they are men that do not actually conscribe or attach themselves to any other ideologies included under the grand banner of intersectionality that they keep waving around. And again, the purity, the cleansing elements involved, whereby you remove the unwanted to not only protect yourself but protect your ideas. I mean, in the modern world, you aren't protecting yourself, because the people that you are attempting to flush out are no threat to you. What you are doing is attempting to protect your ideology. And again, in the modern world, all of these things, every single one of them, all of these values, they all would have been amazing things. And it should the world fall into chaos, society disappear, and we get reduced back to tribal communities, these things will keep us alive. But looking at it from another perspective of, we actually live in the modern world and we're doing pretty well, these things don't protect people anymore. All they protect is ideologies and people who attach themselves to the core of those ideologies. They don't protect anything else. They're not useful for anything else when thrown together as a tribal mentality. We're more advanced now than we have been in hundreds of years, thousands of years. We're achieving so much, and the problems that we've caused, whilst some people would still put up opposition to fixing those issues, we're solving more problems, we're achieving more, we're reaching for the heavens again, and the things that are slowing us down are the arguments, the lack of clarity that are brought on by so many different tribes warring over nothing, over ephemeral ideas that make, in the grand scheme of things, no difference and no sense. Because regardless of what all of these people argue for, whether they win or lose, our time on this planet is finite. We're all going to die, they're going to die, their idea is going to die, and everyone's going to move on. There are some ideas that are more successful than others and that last for thousands of years. There are some that really don't last any time at all. But let's put it this way, everything that they do is pointless, so why can't we just focus now on removing the tribalism and continuing the discussion instead of trying to shut each other down? So yeah, that turned into a bit more of a ramble and a bit more of a set of examples and things that I initially thought it would. But at the same time, I hope you enjoyed it. What do you guys think about tribalism? Can you see it when you walk outside the door? Would you necessarily think that you at some point have been part of a tribe, be it for the better or worse? What do you think we can do in regards to dealing with these tribes and actually getting them to sit down, discuss, and work for a much bigger picture instead of their own very small ones? I'd love to hear what you think down in the comments below. Otherwise, if you found this video interesting or in any way entertaining, then please drop me a like and subscribe for more. Otherwise, take care.